Hi everyone, I'm Lynn from Finds of Yesterday, and today we are talking the 1970s. And you ask, why are we talking about the 1970s? Well, I had a friend who is just getting started selling on eBay, and she asked me one day, how do you know the difference between vintage and antique? And I told her the difference is antiques are 100 years old or more, and vintage is 20 years old back to 100 years old. So that's the simple answer for it. But then the next question is, well, how do you break it down into decades? How do you know something's from the 1970s or the 1980s? And I thought, well, if she doesn't know the answer to this, then maybe other resellers that are just getting started selling on eBay might have the same problem. So I thought, well, let's just do a visual because that's the simplest way to remember things is by seeing. So I put together a picture of what the 1970s will look like. So put your roller skates on and turn your disco light on and let's go back to the 70s. All right, we're back. We're going to start with the colors you would have seen mostly in the 1970s. So what's the first three colors that pop out in your mind? Is it burnt orange, like my shirt, and see my flared arms? That's one of the colors that was very popular back then. And then what about harvest gold? That's the next popular color. Remember the refrigerators, the stoves, and that type of thing? Your home decor, all of this had these two colors. But there's still one more color. And what is that color? Avocado green. You're right. Remember the shag carpets? Oh my gosh. That's the visual. Think big, bold, bright, warm tones. Well, let's talk about the designs we seen back in the 70s. So remember the canister sets that were sitting on the counters of your parents' house? Well, maybe they were on my parents' house counters. The mushrooms on the little flower jar. And then there's geometric shapes. And I'm going to try popping some pictures up here to help you visualize this. And then we had fruit designs. So anything that hung on the wall probably had a fruit design on it. So a lot of plastic was popular. Like if you remember Home Interiors and Homeco products that were the hard plastic, and Sirocco, which is another hard plastic similar to the Home Interiors products with the gold edging around it and fancy scroll work. They're back in the 70s. Okay, so let's go to how homes were decorated, and maybe that'll help you visualize vases and items that you could see sitting on a end table when you were back in the 70s. Okay, visualize the wood paneling on the walls, because everybody had wood paneling. Some people still have it today, but everything's coming back in style from the 70s, so it doesn't really matter. And the shag carpets are all coming back in, the big fluffy carpets that were hard to clean. The velvet couches and pillows. You could probably still find a lot of velvet pillows back from the 70s yet. And the big, large plants, they were fake, but it reminded you of the beach. So they were popular back then. They hung baskets on the wall a lot, and you could put greenery hanging out of them. Terrazzo planters. Terrazzo is a mix of materials like marble and granite, and I guess it was all broken up and then molded back together, and they made planters out of that, so they're kind of speckled. Then what about the granny square Afghan? That was so big. I can still see my grandma sewing them, and my mom sewed them for a while. Then she switched over to regular straight stitched Afghans. But the granny squares are popular and they are sought after right now. And I'll pop a picture up so you can get a better image of that. And remember the sunburst clocks and mirrors that hung on the wall with the big starburst spike looking things coming out of them? And woven macrame. So if you see any woven macrame plant holders, that would be something to look for as well, because all that stuff's coming back in style right now. And wicker furniture, anything rattan, people look for that nowadays. What else? Floral curtains with the big bold patterns. If you can picture the big flowers and bold patterns on your clothes, it kind of crossed over to curtains and bedspreads and your linens. That's about it on home decor. Let's go over to dishware. So if you can picture a kitchen in the 1970s with dishware, what's the first item you would see on that counter? If you said Pyrex, you're absolutely right. Pyrex had started becoming popular back then. My mom had a lot of it. She used a lot. We had the brown colored bowls. And again, think back to these colors, because that's the Pyrex that was popular back in the 70s. So you have brown bowls, gold bowls. They had the white bowls with brown designs on them, and the green. The green was really popular. So you had a green bowl with the white flowers on it, or a white bowl with the green flowers on it. So look for the avocado green, because that's important to know if you want to say it was from the 70s. I remember a lot of the McDonald's drinking glasses. They always had the figures on them, like Ronald McDonald. And my mom had a lot of Avon bottles. That was another thing we had around the house. So they were popular. She had the Avon lady come, I swear, once a week. I shouldn't swear, but I think she did. Once a week, that Avon lady was there. So we had a lot of the Avon bottles that came in every different design. And I think the most popular Avon bottle design is the one where it looks like a water bowl in the pitcher sat inside the water bowl. I think that was pretty popular. My dad had some that were shaped like cars. We had all kinds. So they're pretty popular back in the 70s, but that extended into the 80s as well. Some of this stuff is going to overlap in decades as well. You remember the thumbprint goblets? The ones that, you know what a goblet is, with a pedestal on it, and it had these little thumbprints all around it, and they're big and thick and glass. Them were popular. And the milk glass, the white milk glass mugs, I think my mom and dad had them every morning out on the table. Fire King. The Fire King had the avocado green. Oh, I don't have the green here. Had the avocado green and the burnt orange mugs. You couldn't see through them. They were like kind of a frosted color, but they were like this color. Thick ashtrays, like green ashtrays. If you can remember going anywhere to the Legion or anywhere out and about, restaurants, they had them big, thick, square green ashtrays. They also were in clear, but they had them in them big, bold colors that were so popular. Think about games and toys that kids played with. I played with Barbies in the 70s big time, but Barbies ranges from the 60s on up till now. So that one is a little hard to determine what is from that time frame. The only way to really tell is to look on the back of her neck. She has the actual date. If you look on her body, it's the date of the mold for that body. The actual date that Barbie was made is on the top, like back of her neck. Games like Hangman, Mousetrap, Cat's Eye, Monopoly, Life, the traditional ones. Battleship, not the electronic one, the regular manual one. And we had Atari and Intellivision and Boggle, Mastermind, Clue. Then do you remember the little handheld electronic games? They were huge back then, because not everybody could afford a system like they do now, like the Nintendos and the Wiis and all the popular gaming systems they have out now. Not everybody could afford them back then. They were brand new to us. So if you find them from the 70s, they're going to be a big hit. And they had Tandy computers, because we were just barely getting started with computers. Tandy was the big one back then. And Shrinky Dinks. I don't know if you remember them, but I sure love them. if you think about the cartoon characters, you can find toys everywhere and anywhere nowadays. They're probably not going to be high priced unless you find something rare, but you'll know they're from the 70s if you see them, like Scooby-Doo, all the Looney Tunes like Bugs Bunny, Porky Pig, and Roadrunner and Tweety and Sylvester. Then you had Fat Albert. What else? Jetsons, Popeye. What are some others? If you think of some others, put it down in the comments. And if you're liking this video so far, please subscribe. All right, think about all the characters that you've known before that you've loved and add that to your 70s list. Now let's move on to holiday items. Everybody loves Christmas items from the past. It reminds them of their childhood and usually really good memories. So remember the ceramic Christmas trees. They are probably the #1 sought after item right now. Then we had satin ball ornaments. They're not real popular to resell, but that was part of the 70s. Flocked ornaments are popular to resell, like the little reindeer, the little Santas. There's a variety of characters out there that were flocked. As far as like tablecloths and linens go, they used very simplistic patterns, like just red, green, and white poinsettias, like a white tablecloth with red poinsettias and green leaves. And in simple lines, nothing really elaborate. That was on what they used a lot on their dining room tables. What else? There was, the melted plastic popcorn wall hangings. They're probably the second best thing to look into. They sell for at least $15 on up. So they had a reindeer, they had a Santa, they had snowmen, any kind of Christmas design you can think of. I call them melted plastic popcorn. I'll pop a picture up so you know what I'm talking about if you're not familiar with that term. And then the push pin ornaments, where they took a styrofoam ball and they put sequins and beads, all different colors, and wrapped ribbon down it and put tassels and little dangly things. And they are popular. And a lot of them were actually made in Poland and got started over here. They were popular in the 70s. And probably into the 80s, and I think they kind of slowed up some, but now everybody wants them again. And I actually just sold some today. And I don't know if you remember the sugar-coated candle, like glass candle holders. They were all into a colored design, like the sugar was different color and it was embedded as real hard on the glass. I don't know if you remember them, but if I can find a picture, I'll pop that up here. And the blow molds from Empire, that's a popular brand. They're really, really sought after. I can sell them so easy. I missed one at Savers one day. A lady was walking by with a cart to stock the shelves, and I seen a blow mold in there. And by the time I got over to her, some other lady had taken that blow mold off the shelf and put it in her cart within a minute. You can't keep them on the shelf. So if you ever see them out and about, there's so many varieties. If you remember the nativity scenes that they put out in the yard with the light in them, they are blow molds. Well, we could probably talk a little bit about clothing. I don't do a whole lot of vintage clothing, but I have some, and if I find some, I will get it, but I don't have a whole lot of it. So the boho style, obviously, with this type of shirt, the fringy big legs, suede vests and coats were popular. Crocheted dresses and tunics like over shirts. High-waisted, light-washed jeans. If you can find them from the 70s, they are sought after. And the jumpers, girls would wear jumpers with a bodysuit underneath, a long sleeve tight bodysuit, and the jumper would hang down to probably mid-thigh. And that's really the most I think I can talk about because I'm not into that realm very much. So let's move on to hobbies and things to do that you did back in the 70s. And of course, sports, all kinds of sports related items. I'm not big into sports and I couldn't tell you what a 1970s football looked like. All I know is this football looks old. That's all I could tell you. But roller skating was #1 to do back in the 70s. Or skateboarding was also popular. Put the disco ball on and put the roller skates on and we were in heaven. So swimming was another thing, but you don't really see too much swimming items from the 70s. Sleepovers, We'd listen to music. So music and movies are a popular thing to probably look into. Like Rocky, that was popular. Superman just came out. Wonder Woman. Dr. Seuss was popular. Mad Max are some of the movies. American Graffiti. Saturday Night Fever. Black Stallion. Amityville Horror. The Jerk. Smokey and the Bandit. Planet of the Apes. Cheech and Chong, Up in Smoke. Them were all popular. So people and musicians, like movie stars that were in a lot of these movies, Clint Eastwood, John Travolta, Goldie Hawn, Farrah Fawcett, Bill Murray, and then you have Barbara Streisand, Sylvester Stallone, Burt Reynolds, Mick Jagger, Cher, and we start getting into musicians, which ABBA, Kansas, Elton John, Pink Floyd, Eagles were popular. Queen, the Rolling Stones, John Denver. I hope you're getting a picture of what the 70s was like now. Some of the band memorabilia is fabulous to find, if you can find it, and especially if you can find it in great condition. And then what about the magazines like Tiger Beat and 17, and Bananas was another one from then. So I think that covers what the 1970s would look like in my mind, and I know everybody visualizes it different. Let me know in the comments what you think. What was your favorite part of the 70s if you lived through that time frame? And if not, what was your parents' favorite thing about the 1970s? Leave me a comment and let me know. And let me know if this video helped you at all as a reseller to get a better image of what it was like back in the 70s, so it will help you in your business better. Thank you for joining me, and please hit the like button. And we're going to put out more. We're going to talk about the 80s and the 90s, and then we're going to start going backwards some. So join me for the rest of the videos by hitting the subscribe button, and you'll be notified when I do put out them videos. Thank you for joining me. I'm Lynn from Finds of Yesterday. See you in the next one.